Hi there, my name is Tyler Wooten and I'm going to be showing you how to set up DeepRacer on the spot and get your first training started. Here we have the GitHub repo for DeepRacer on the spot, and if we scroll a little bit down to the README section, it'll have our first steps. From the AWS console, you can log in however you may. Once you're on here, you'll launch Cloud Shell, which you can access by clicking this icon. And while that's loading, we'll go back and grab our first command. The first thing you'll do is you'll clone this GitHub repo from Cloud Shell. As you can see, this is just a floating terminal. Once we've cloned this repo, we can see that there is a DeepRacer on the spot directory now. You can run the second command on here, which is to change directory into DeepRacer on the spot. And once you do that, you can use ls to show all the files and directories, and this should match exactly what's up here in the GitHub repo. Next, we'll create our base resources. This first command here, called create base resources, is going to set up a few things for you, like your S3 bucket, your security group, your IAM roles, your VPC and ACL rules that allow for ingress to see your machine's IP, and then as well as an EFS mount for elastic file storage. We'll copy this first command, create base resources, and this takes two inputs here. This takes the name of the stack that you want to create and the IP of the machine that you are currently using. I'll go over here to whatismyip.com and copy my IPv4. And then inside of DeepRacer on the spot, I'll run create base resources, and you can use tab to autocomplete. I'll call this base resources just base, and then I'll paste in the IP. You'll see a bit of output here, and this is printing out, showing all the steps that it is completing. This command will take about 3 minutes to run, but once this is completed, we'll jump right back in. Now that our base resources stack is completed, you'll see it printed out, successfully created updated stack base. If you want to see what's going on here, you can actually navigate to CloudFormation and see exactly what's going on in the stack. This created a stack called base, which has these following events. You can see all the different components that it created, the EFS mounts, the lambdas, and then also the resources that were generated by this. And this is setting up the S3 and different components that we need to be able to actually provision our first training. Once this is completed, we can go right back to Cloud Shell. And from Cloud Shell, we are now clear to set up our next piece. You can then scroll down to the create standard or create spot instance. These are two different commands. What these will do are either give you, in the case of a standard instance, this will give you a guaranteed EC2 instance that will stay alive for however long you specify. And the base configuration will charge you 75 cents an hour, but it will be guaranteed, as opposed to the $3.50 an hour that you're charged if you train in the DeepRacer console. The spot instance will cost 28 cents an hour, but it will frequently get interrupted as spot instance capacity falls. For now, we'll just run the create standard instance command. This takes 3 commands, as you can see here. The first one being the name of your base resource stack that we created in the step before, which we will call base. The second one is the name of this stack that you want to create. I often name this whatever model I'm going to train, and then the time to live in minutes. So we'll just copy this whole command, and over in Cloud Shell, we'll paste this. Now you'll see some output here again. The first thing that it will do is print out your hyperparameters and your action space to be able to showcase as a last chance to see what training is going to be deployed. It will upload all of these custom files to an S3 bucket, and what it's doing in the background is actually starting the EC2 instance, moving these files down to that EC2, and then starting your training. This will take about 3 minutes for this command to finish, and once it finishes, it'll take another 3 or 4 minutes for the training to actually start on the EC2 instance. Now that this command is finished, we can see two primary outputs that say training should start shortly on this IP and port, and then you should also be able to monitor training progress on the same IP on port 8100/menu.html. If we copy these links into another tab, for now, we won't see any response. It'll say the site cannot be reached, and that's because the EC2 instance can't be reached, is because the EC2 instance is now alive, but it is not publishing any information on this specific port yet. We'll have to wait just another minute or two for training to finish, and normally I just stay on this site until it does load. Now, after we waited a few minutes and hit refresh, we can see that there are now a few links available on this port 8080. If we click the second one that says race car main camera, this should show us the car is now sitting on the track and training will begin shortly. You should see the car start to race around here in a moment. But if you try any of the other links and they don't work, that could just be that it's taking a while for the video to actually load. But this race car main camera link is the primary one to watch. Likewise, on the 8100 menu HTML file, this shows a ton of links that all show information about your current training. The top one shows the aggregated output of a couple different pieces of your training. It shows the Docker containers that are running, such as your 2 RoboMaker workers, 1 SageMaker, your memory usage, and then this will also update as your training progresses to show total number of laps, as well as additional useful information. If you want to drill in to see what configuration files you are using for this training, and also down at the bottom, access the Jupyter Notebook to be able to watch your training progress, you can do that as well. Now back on the port 8080, we can now see our car is slowly racing around the track with the default reward function. You've now started your first DeepRacer on the spot training. Now that our training is running, at any time, if we want to actually stop this training, maybe we see it performing poorly or we want to change the track, we can go back to CloudFormation, click on our first model base stack, and we can delete this. If you don't delete it, the training will go to the total time to live that you defined. Here we define this as 30 minutes, and the training will complete at that point. One other final note to mention, that you will run the create base resources script only once per AWS account or per region. Whenever you create the base resources, this is setting up all the things you need just one time. Whenever you want to start training, you will run create standard instance or create spot instance for each training.